Well, hello everyone, and welcome. Yeah, how do you know when it's time to change your stylus? How do you know that? What's the indication of that? There's a lot of folks that know, but I do get questions from time to time about this. And I just had a question the other day which kind of sparked. I gave the fellow a really long reply, and so I've been thinking about this here. I thought, well, maybe it's a good idea to share some of this with y'all, in case you're not sure. And so, when I did the review of the Yes, one of the things about that Roundabout record, Fragile in particular, that's always been in the prior issues I've had. A few years back, one in particular was the Japanese press, and I think there was the one I had before that. They had a harshness to the highs. And when I got the Kevin Gray record that he remastered, he got rid of a lot of that, and I was able to listen to it and not like. There's sometimes you can't listen to it. You have to take it off because it's just not done well. Okay, you're just picking up too much digital artifacts, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't sound good. So he asked me a question about that. He said, why is it no one has ever commented about Fragile and the horrible semblance on Jay Anderson's vocals on both Roundabout and Long Distance Roundabout? It's ridiculous. I have both high-end pressings on CD and vinyl, and he's got a good stereo. And he said, I have never heard about the S, sibilant vocals, anywhere. He says, listen to it and you'll see. So, of course, I didn't remember any sibilants on there. So, of course, I got the record out and I listened to it, and there wasn't any of note on the records. So I left him a long reply. I'm not going to talk about that so much, but I want to talk about that whole phenomenon he's talking about. And so I had a problem with, about 10 years ago when I bought my Shelter cartridge. I played that Patricia Barber cafe or nightclub, Patricia Barber nightclub. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this record here, Patricia Barber nightclub. I've had this record over 10 years now, and so when I got my new cartridge, I was playing the record, and I said, "Wow, the one I used to have, the cartridge I used to have before was a Vandenhall Frog, okay, and but the stylus I thought had some issues with it, so that's why I got a new cartridge, and I still had semblance on this record." But now on all my other records, it sounded really good. I could tell it was tracking well. It was working really good. A lot better than that Vandenhall cartridge you did. But on this record, it still had a lot of semblance on her voice. And sometimes you might notice on recordings that are really, really good, there's still some S. And that's one of the things they do in when they remaster stuff. They de-S the records, which is kind of like taking the semblance off. And that's one thing you're going to notice now. When you start getting cartridge wear, your stylus starts getting worn, you're going to hear those S's are going to be more pronounced. But what I found out when I just got my cartridge retipped now, because before it was a elliptical profile on that stylus. Now I went to a micro line, and I used to have a micro line when I had my my Signet OC9, which Signet is a Audio Technica. That's their high end brand. Back in the day, they had a different name for it. They called it Signet, and that thing, I really loved that cartridge, and it wasn't that expensive back in those days either. And that was a micro line, okay. But then I got the Vandenhall. And I had another one. I had can never remember the name of that cartridge, but I had a couple different cartridges. And then with the Shelter, I still had problem with this. Right. Okay. So when I got my microline stylus on my shelter, guess what? Semblance went away. Because semblance is an artifact of mistracking. Or as I was talking the other day on the live stream about when I was listening to the Yes records, it was on the Yes album, Yours Is No Disgrace. On some of the vocals, I was hearing a distortion. And that is, actually what it was the cartridge was mistracking. Because it's another artifact of things you're going to hear when you've got stylus wear. It sounds kind of like a tearing. That's the best way that people describe that sound. But it was a mistracking on the vocals. They weren't real clear and pristine. They had a distortion to them. So what I did was I reduced the amount of tracking force, because the tracking force is recommended between certain point and a certain point. Now that I've got a retip, which is not the standard tip on that cartridge, I can't go to the manufacturer and say, hey, what's the tracking force, because that's not the way that cartridge came. But it's well known in audiophile circles, if you get the Shelter 501, the best upgrade you can go to without even buying another cartridge is just get a microline put on that cartridge. And so that's what I did. And guess what? Yeah, all the semblance is gone now on this record, because that microline can trace better. It tracks better. So that's an artifact of mistracking. So when you hear some kind of distortion in the music, it's not like you've got a whole bunch of lint on your needle, but kind of a little bit like that. And you get like those S's. That's the most thing that gets pronounced, is the S's, the sibilance. That thing. You're going to hear that. Oh, I never used to hear that. And now it's got kind of a sibilant sound to the S. It's time to get a new needle. That's what that means. That's when you're going to be able to tell, I need to. But not, like you say, not always. You can have a brand new one, and still, because it's a heavy thing to track. It's hard to track that. And so now I'm able to do it because I've got a different profile. And I just wanted to share you with that with y'all. Let me know what you think of the video. If it helped you out, let me know. I appreciate all your feedback, and thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.